We'll call the, what is the date today, December 1st? December 1st special council meeting to discuss the budget to order. And it's my hopes that tonight we finalize this budget. And before we get started, Councillor Martin has asked to say a few things about some research he's done here, and then we'll come back.
Thank you. I came to the city office the other day and I asked to get information on how much I paid in property tax. Well, in 1981, after a revaluation, I paid $1,000, $1,021. In 2005, after I added a two-car garage, it went over the 1,500 mark, 24 years. In 2010, it went over the $2,000 mark. In 2012, it went over $2,500. In 2014, it went over $3,000. So people will say, well, things go up, it's all relative. Well, for years, I'd go to Harvest, I'd work 3 weeks to pay my taxes, and I'd have some money left over. Now I work Harvest, and I can't cover 2/3 of my property taxes. So that's why I think we should maintain where we're at. Also, I don't know how many of you have seen the results of the survey we took on election day, the council took on election day. The majority of people that filled out a survey were okay with not filling those 3 open positions. And the majority of people were okay with donating money to charities. That's all I got for now. Thank you.
I appreciate that information. I think it's also underscores the point that the state has not lived up to their promise of revenue sharing, where we're down about $1 million annually. That would make a huge impact on the municipal budget and the tax rate. I'd encourage everybody once again to contact the state senator and state representative from our area.
Understood, but
Just talked to her yesterday.
those little, for a $100,000 house, it's gonna cost you an extra 30. Well, mine's a little more than 100,000, and then we add the county and the school budget, and whatever. They add up after a while.
Certainly do.
I will make one comment on the survey. Although the majority of the people did not want to fill those 3 positions so they could avoid a tax increase, there was a large amount of them that did say we should fill the police out of the 3. They didn't want, typical, didn't want a tax increase but don't want to lose something either. But that was the one that stuck out in the comments section, that many of them wanted to fill or felt we should fill the police departments. And there was some that said we should fill the library. There was a couple that said should fill public works, but there was a large amount that said we should fill the police position only.
Were we able to get that information into electronic format, Excel or anything?
It's been posted on the website for how long, Austin?
2-3 weeks.
2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, has it been put into an Excel sheet?
No,
that
it
we
didn't.
talked about?
It,
No.
I couldn't make it work, and it was easier to do it the way we did it, and then we just put
Yeah, we actually compiled it in I don't know,
quick.
yeah.
Could we put him in the Republican?
It should be,
It is. Natalie, I think,
I think it's gonna be in on Wednesday.
probably be in next week.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to talk about the budget here a little bit tonight, and I guess I'll start. I know everyone has made some comments, and I don't think everybody here has their own idea what should be done, and we should do this but not this, and we all have little different ideas. I noticed that watching the meeting the other night, which, please excuse my absence, but I would have probably been laying on the floor under this table if I was here. I had some back problems, and I watched you while I laid on my bed, so. I think there has to be some kind of a compromise. We may have to talk about a lot of the issues together, because some people are willing to do this, but at the same time, they think we should do this as well. And I'm going to just throw out some thoughts here that can be considered as we go along, and some of the things that I have mentioned. When I went over the budget, I looked at our energy usage. I looked at our fuel oil and our diesel and gas usage. And I noticed we haven't changed the budget. We've made big changes to two of our main buildings here since the last budget, being all the new windows in the City Hall. I know we put a lot of new windows in over at the fire hall here this past spring. And even that alone I think is going to make a tremendous difference in the energy usage. And I feel on the fuel oil spread over all of the buildings we have, we should be looking at least $20,000 decrease in the budget overall. Price of fuel oil has gone down now, I don't know, probably better than 25% than where we were a year ago. And at $20,000, that's about 20% less. And that's not allowing for the windows or anything else, so that would be on top of it. Diesel and gas, I think there's 25 grand there. And that's basing it at about 10% less cost than last year. And I think both diesel and gas have gone down more than 10% since last year. So I'm looking at $45,000 there that I think we should have out of the expense lines that we don't. I do have a question on we approved to do a paving project downtown here next summer.
That's all part of the TIF district.
I understand that. And when we do that, is that a deal where we pay for the project and then they reimburse us?
No.
No? Okay, that answers my question. The other item I've had, and I've noticed some of the other councilors have mentioned it as well, is that $20,000 that was added into the wage and administration. And that was an extra $20,000 on top of the proposed increases that we approved early this year. And I am not in favor of doing that at this time. There's been talk about public works and the need to have as many people as we have for all the snow equipment in order to clear the roads without having to double up or increasing other people's routes and so on. I know it's a safety issue. I know there was some discussion about keeping the police and not having the public works. Is it possible that we can consider that we keep that public works person on now and lay them off in April? It's part-time. We just keep them from now until April and then lay them off. We keep them for the snow season and then lay them off for the rest of the year.
Currently, there's nobody in that position. We'd have to go out, advertise for a part-time spot, which we've talked
But what I'm saying is, according to Dave's memo that he put out, and you put the position in the budget, correct?
No.
I thought you had put the
Oh,
public...
sorry, Public Works, yeah,
Yeah,
that one.
you put the public works position in the budget. Dave feels he needs him for the snow plowing, otherwise he's got to change routes and everything else. Well, rather than arguing whether we need him or don't need him, can we not keep him until April and then lay him off the end of April? Mr. Mizuko?
Just so you're aware, the unemployment cost of that every year, we don't pay unemployment insurance, we pay into a trust. So there'd be some savings there, but you're not gonna see very much because that unemployment cost every year is gonna keep getting whacked into our trust. So we'd be laying somebody off and maybe only seeing half the savings of what it would be to lay that person off.
What about their benefits?
There would be no benefits.
That go into the unemployment cost too? So we'd save all the benefits?
You save the benefits, but just so you're aware that you're losing probably
Oh,
half that.
I understand that you would have a portion of the salary, but, you know, when I looked at the information you put out and looked at the benefits for city employees, I think on average it came out to about 44%.
Just to be clear though, we do have high costs for health insurance. and
I
that's
understand.
because of but I just want to because of our claims, not because of our plans.
Yeah.
Presque Isle pays less, they have less claims. The unorganized territories pay less for less claims, so it's not that it's a generous health insurance benefit. Ours just unfortunately costs more than some other communities.
Tony, whatever it costs, my only point is, today, the benefit cost to the city of Caribou for city employees is roughly 44%, I think it comes out to. And you know, that's on average. Now, someone that's at the lower end of the salary scale, it's probably 60%. Somebody at the higher end of the salary scale, it's maybe only 33%. But on average, it's about 44%. So, you know, even if you're talking about laying some off, you're losing half the salary, you're getting on average 44% back because you're not paying the benefits. So it is a substantial savings regardless. And, you know, maybe that's the way we have to look at operating. Maybe there's other places we can do the same thing, where we can hire someone part-time for just part of the year. And David, I don't know how that would work. I don't know if it would work, but it's certainly something that I think we have to consider here. Mr. Martin?
Probably wouldn't work for Public Works, but there is a state law that was passed 5 or 6 years ago that allows you to have a senior citizen work, well, they call it community service, but it could be a job, and it goes against their property taxes. So, you know, we asked for volunteers at the library. Well, volunteers don't necessarily come the day you really need them, but if you had an elderly person that's going to work off $500 or $600 or $800 off their property tax, I mean, no unemployment, no benefits, I mean, that's as cheap labor as you could ever get. I think that's something we should look at.
Would your wife and my wife be considered elderly?
Yeah,
Okay.
my wife's working full-time. I don't know if she'd
hearing that on
she'd go
TV.
for another part-time
Not
job.
good.
Sorry, dear, if you're watching. I also want to mention the fire department. And if I'm wrong, some of the counselors here can correct me, but we sat here early, I believe it was this year, and Chief Susi talked to us about the secretarial position and the ambulance billing. And at that time, what he wanted to do was to make the person that was a part-time secretary a full-time person, and they would do ambulance billing in the extra time,
It would
because,
assist with the ambulance billing, providing some of the runs, getting that stuff together, which she does.
yeah. Anyway, and at the time, we had 2 people in the ambulance billing department. And I think the council had agreed to that that's what we would do. And when I went through the thing that we asked, or actually Councilor McDonough asked to have put out this year with people and positions, I noticed that, yeah, we have the full-time secretary now at full-time wages and benefits, but we also have another $20,000 in the ambulance billing department for a part-time person, which means we hired another part-time person.
And the council, I believe it was you, Councilor Aiken, who said that we need to have more backup and more people trained in ambulance billing. So that's what we did. We got a part-time person here that's helping out and actually can bill. The full-time secretary doesn't bill. She helps in getting the runs together for the people to bill, but she doesn't actually do any of the billing.
Well-
Part of moving her to full-time was also to be in compliance with the Affordable Care Act.
I'm going to back up here a minute, because, and I guess I'm going to have to go back and look at some minutes, because I'm sure it was stated that she was going to do the ambulance billing. And I may be wrong, but that's certainly the way I remember the statements in the meeting. And if I am, I apologize, but I'm going to have to find out in the minutes, going to have to go back through some minutes and find out, because I thought that was the intention. And I agreed with that intention, which meant we would have 2 full-time people there. We would have another person that would work at it part-time and would be capable of doing that ambulance billing as a backup if it was required. And just to comment, when I look at the cost of what we're paying for ambulance billing now compared to what we were and what we're taking in, we're actually taking in less now, or the amount we're taking in is less than the amount extra we're now paying in that department. So we lost money somehow through this. And to me, something wrong with that picture.
It all varies upon the run numbers that all of our contract communities do. And that's a number that we do keep a close eye on. Right now, we don't feel that it's too far out of whack. If things get crazy, we will certainly reevaluate the part-time position there.
So when we have a part-time position in the city, is that a set hours every day, 5 days a week, or what is it?
No,
Or do we
it's-
call them as required, or?
They typically do 4 hours a day. If somebody's going to be gone for a week, she'll work a full week, and then the next week she won't work at all. So it's really to fill in. When there's only one person in the office for a week, things get very backlogged there, and it takes a long time to dig out, especially in peak run seasons.
Anyway, it's 20 grand extra, is what it amounts to. And I think that area should be looked at again, because like I say, we haven't gained anything by putting that in there. We've added $20,000 into it, and we really haven't gained anything from what we're receiving in the revenues from the ambulance billing. A couple other items that, maybe are part of the budget, maybe aren't. Equipment. And again, I think back to previous meetings, and maybe all these things have happened, and I don't know because I'm obviously not around every day. But command vehicle in the fire department. We added the half-ton. Did we sell the car, or what happened with the car?
The car got sold.
Car got sold. Trucks in Public Works, we got, what, David, 4 new trucks there the other year, start of this year, 3 that we were putting on as plow trucks, and
What happened was we actually got 4 that we bought from the GSA program.
yeah,
And they replaced the snow haulers that were still the 1974 Dodges. 3 of them has gone. We have not finished the 4th truck yet, but that will be for this summer. But 3 of them are gone now, so we didn't add any to the fleet.
3 of them have been sold,
Yeah, well, 2 went to the scrap iron yard.
Okay.
One got sold to a local farmer.
and there's one still there that,
There's one still there that as soon as we get the frame stretched on the last one,
okay,
that truck will go too.
all right. Half-ton, your old half-ton, was that sold, or where is that?
So originally my half ton went down in the crew, we bought one for it, and then the old Ford got cannibalized, or it should be cannibalized. We tried to sell it. No
So we didn't end up with an extra vehicle there. I'm hearing about a bulldozer, a new bulldozer. We get a different bulldozer through that program?
swap. We just swapped bulldozers. We bought a bigger bulldozer, or we didn't buy, we traded. And the old one went to another community that paid the freight to bring the other one out.
They took our smaller one for a bigger one, because they didn't need the bigger one, obviously.
No, the bigger one came from out of state.
Oh, okay,
But they paid the freight to get it up here, and they took it to the other community.
okay,
Yeah.
all right. And now tell me about street sweepers, will you? Because again, I remember a conversation in this room about 2 street sweepers, and why did we need 2, and maybe we should only have 1 and just use 1, and now I understand we got 3.
So we've had 2 for the last 18 years. And back 3 or 4 years ago, we had put in for capital improvement to buy a new one, to start putting away for it. It never materialized, so we kept an eye out on the DRMO site. 1 came available from the limestone place. Yeah, the LVA. And it's an older model, but it's a broomless one, just has the gutters. We got an opportunity to try it here. That's going to replace the 1984 that we have. So we'll still only have 2. Just, it came in and we drove that one from the base, so that one cost us.
Well, it runs anyway.
Yeah, no, it runs good. Yeah.
And the only reason I ask this stuff, I mean, I understand this DMRO program and what a great deal it is, and getting stuff for next to nothing and so on. And as long as we're turning everything over, it's not really a problem. But to add extra equipment because, it's really cheap to get it is one thing, but it's not cheap once it's here if you keep everything, because now you want to try to find people to operate it, and secondly, now you got to repair more things than what you normally have to do. So you've answered most of my concerns. Yeah, we still got a truck to get rid of, and we still got a street sweeper to get rid of, but it sounds like we're at least tempting to.
And I also have 2 old Oshkoshes that they're 1959 and 1965 vintage that we'll be getting rid of to the scrap iron yard, but the scrap prices are down right now. So
Yeah, I know that.
wait till spring. And that was with equipment that was replaced prior to. And I also like to mention too that we not only have replaced the snow hauling fleet, but we replaced 2 frontline plow trucks. That the frontline trucks actually became snow haulers that have a value of over $100,000 apiece. I mean, we can buy just the plain trucks at $100,000. But when we originally did that program that I came to the council and talked about, we, for $55,000, we bought 1 front row plow truck and 4 snow haulers for a total of 5. And out of them 5, we've made two of them into front row plow trucks that we didn't have to replace our international trucks.
And that brings up another point, David. I mean, and I don't know if you're adjusting your capital equipment budget accordingly, because these things are happening, that you're taking down the amount that you're requiring, or are we still putting the same amount in year after year, or?
So as little as 4 years ago, the city council was funding the public works department equipment reserve at $125,000 to $150,000 a year to maintain our equipment purchases that we had in a 10-year program. If we look at last year, I believe it was $65,000 or $68,000. This year here, for 2015, I had originally asked for $75,000. I think we reduced that some, didn't we? I believe another 10 come off, so we're at 65. So we're a little under 50% of what we were at 4 years ago. And we're trying to build the reserve accounts to purchase a loader in the near future. The loader I'd like to replace is 24 years old now. But we are keeping a very close eye onto them programs that we may be able to pick up a piece of equipment by paying freight to get it here. And if we end up with a loader, that takes care of my capital needs for a few years anyway. So yes, the capital improvement program has gone down substantially.
All right. And again, I know it won't be part of the budget right now, but I just want it mentioned because I think it has to be looked at. And again, it's only because of my own ignorance. I think we need to have a session so that we all understand, and maybe I'm the only one that doesn't understand, what the relationship is with the city of Caribou and Carey Medical Center. You know, I mean, I've heard so many things over the years that, you know, we're responsible for any losses they have and on and on. That's why our taxes are so high. I know that isn't the case. I've also heard, though, that we own all the buildings and we're responsible for the buildings. And I don't know if that's the case or not. I know we don't, personally, this council doesn't get consulted about additions and so on that are done there. You know, the reason I'm asking this is that, you know, we do these pilot programs, or now they're called municipal service fee ordinances and so on. And I'm questioning, we do this with Rose Acres and many other places, and I'm questioning whether this should be done with Carey Medical Center. We've asked all these other, like Rose Acres, to contribute something towards the upkeep of streets and street lights and everything else in this city. And yet, we've never done that with Carey. And maybe we can't do it with Carey because of whatever this relationship is, which is why I'd like to have a meeting here sometime in the beginning of the year and determine that. And determine whether it is something that should be looked at, or no, because of the way the thing is set up, it can't be done.
The council can ask for pilot arrangements with any nonprofit entity. State law only allows us to charge a municipal fee ordinance to residential places. So it's Rose Acres, apartment buildings like that. So by state law, we cannot force them to pay anything, like we could with the other one. And since I've been here, the council has had quarterly meetings with the executive staff at Carey. I think some of your questions should be brought up, and I believe there's a Carey Council joint meeting next week. I don't know if any of those questions, in my time here, those questions haven't come up at a joint meeting between the council and the Carey, but I think that would be the appropriate place to ask some of those questions.
All right. Yeah, like I say, I didn't know if I don't know how the setup is.
By charter, I mean, it's in the charter as to how the city council appoints the board, and I serve as an ex officio. There's a meeting tonight of the board, which I'm here instead. But every quarter, for quite a few years now, the council sits down with the administrative staff at Carey And there's open dialogue, and I think these questions could be asked there and
Yeah, that
answered.
part could, but if I ask them, and I mean, I go to those quarterly meetings, as you know.
Yeah.
If I ask them, what is the relationship and how does it work, can they answer that?
I think that would be a great place to ask the
right.
questions,
Could we ask in advance so they'd be prepared?
certainly. If you want to
Yeah.
get me a list of questions, we can forward them on to.
Well, I'd just like to know what exactly is the relationship and how does it work and what are our responsibilities as a city, which is the citizens of Caribou. And I'd like to discuss the possibility of a pilot agreement with Cary Medical Center.
Sure.
I've also asked, and it is in here as well, so to explain myself, the Nylander Museum. I would like to meet with the Nylander Board as well early in the year. I don't know who's even left on the board, but to discuss the future of the Nylander Museum. Today, we have a museum here that is very underutilized. There's very few people that go in it to see what's there. Even when we had the curator there, she wasn't able to get the schools to bring the school kids there even to look at the exhibit. But we have an exhibit as well that doesn't change. So, someone that has been in and looked at it, there really isn't a need to go back because it's going to be the same thing every time you go there. We don't have a curator there that can tell anybody anything if they do come in to look at the exhibits. And I just think it's time we sit down with the board and try to determine what can be done there, whether we keep the museum as it is. We had a question on our survey about closing it, I believe. And when we say close it, we don't mean just close it and throw everything away. I mean, there's some valuable things and artifacts there, but they're not in a place where anyone appreciates it. And I think that's what should happen. They should be somewhere, whether it's one of our own buildings that has more public traffic that people might even stop and look at it, or whether it's to another museum that has a lot more traffic of people going in and out of it. And I've always said if we moved it to Bangor or someplace, I think the kids from the schools in Caribou would probably go down there and look at it. They won't come down here on Main Street, but they'd probably go to Bangor to look at it. So I just think it's time. It's been 3 years I've sit here and I see that place, and it's just such a waste that I think it's time we come up with some kind of a solution and what we can do with it.
I think that's long overdue. Ever since the council about 3 to 4 years ago started eliminating the Nylander budget, removing the curator position, not having that anymore, just unfunding the Nylander. I think that would have been the time to have these discussions with the board, but we can certainly do that now. It needs to be done.
Yes. And the only other thing I had on my little list of things that I want to get out of here very quickly in the new year is our financial committee meets and discusses the investment policy that the city has. My understanding today, our investment policy, we can only invest money with the local banks. And I'm not looking to move the money away from local banks here, although local banks, we don't have too many head offices for banks here. We might have one or two, but not too many. I think it ties our hands tremendously. And if it's just a matter of the investment committee and then the council approving it, I would say that we should branch out to, we have some financial institutions here in Caribou as well that are in the investment business, and maybe can present us with a lot better opportunities than what the banks can. I certainly would like to see, the money we have done locally. We are going to have a substantial amount of money coming in this year, back from that pension fund. And I want to make sure that we get the best use out of it and the best return. So I'd like to have a meeting scheduled of the financial group sometime after our first sitting in January. We probably will set it that night to do just that. Anyway, I've probably talked long enough, but just in summary, when I look at fuel, when I look at gas and diesel, when I look at that $20,000 in the administration, if we can see our way clear to taking that Public Works position and just having it until the end of April to cover the snow season, I think there's enough money here that we can pay the police, we can pay the part-time Public Works position, and as far as the library is concerned, we talked about having an events coordinator who would also be involved in economic development and would work out of the library office, and if nothing else, would serve as a, maybe to understand that situation as a backup. Hopefully we aren't going to need a backup for a long time here, because I personally do like what's happening over there, and I intend to pay you a visit in the near future. I think we can just about solve our budget problems, that maybe we can keep the people that everybody seems to want to keep, and at the same time, not have a tax increase. And I think that's really what we all want to come out of this somehow. So, those are my thoughts, and I don't know how the rest of council feels, but
I think the, taking a fifth out of the heating fuel budget, I don't think that's realistic. $20,000 just seems like it's way too high to remove based upon the current oil prices. Oil prices
what
go
did you
down
have
a
for a
lot
heating
slower.
budget, Austin?
We've got about $87,000 for total heating oil citywide. But oil prices drop a lot slower than they skyrocket. They could go up in a heartbeat.
$85,000?
I guess I wouldn't feel comfortable taking $20,000 out of heating fuel.
That's City Hall, Fire Hall, Rec Department,
Library.
Library, 80,000. I thought it was more than that.
Skylander, Lions Building. Dave, you got either or, right?
Dave has propane Nylanders out of the TIF district. Alliance building is part of that 80,000.
There will be no savings out of the Public Works, only because of the new propane system. Although oil has been fluctuating pretty rapidly, the propane stays fairly close, so.
What about gas and diesel?
We just got some of those better numbers to look at, and I can't give you a prediction. I think 25,000 is a little on the high side, but
Right now, the numbers I looked at right now showed $197,000 worth of diesel, and there's $48,000 or $58,000 in there for gas in the budget.
right, I haven't had a chance to really review all the historical usages yet.
I was hoping we probably would have been able to have something here. I asked about this, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks ago, I think. Sent the information, so.
I don't believe it was that long ago.
First one,
For the oil?
for oil and gas, yeah. The first email I sent, that I sent to all the councilors.
That would have been mid-November at the earliest.
Anyway, I've taken up enough time here.
Can I ask a question when you were talking on the ambulance? Chief Susie's not here, but you can probably answer it anyway. When the ambulance goes out on a call and there's no transport, maybe somebody fell or something like that, is it my understanding that there is no charge for that?
If we don't provide any services, correct.
So if somebody just falls and they need help getting up or something like that, chances are they've got to call a couple of people in to fill.
It depends. If it's in the urban compact zone, no. They're close enough where they can backfill if needed.
But if they're a little
it's-
bit out in the country,
If it's out, on the border with Presque Isle or Connor, they might need to,
and they would have somebody come in,
perhaps.
which would be maybe a minimum, and then the charge, is this by law that we can't charge, or is this just policy with the city?
It's just policy that you don't send somebody a $500 bill to help get them up off the ground.
Because it costs the city
Right.
often, a lot, because I think it happens quite often.
I don't know the numbers on that. Chief Susie would better know that
Yeah.
than I would.
I was just thinking that maybe there ought to be some kind of small, I'm not saying $500, but maybe some kind of small minimum charge every time they have to go out. You know, I don't know if it's something I would think that the insurance may pay for it because they needed assistance.
Insurance companies don't like to pay for much. I doubt if they would pay for that, but I don't know.
Just wondering.
Any other counselors have any comments they want to make? And then we'll try to get into this and.
I guess I would just start with the one question, which is, we talked about the positions at Public Works and the PD. And I guess my question would be is what's the impact on overtime if we don't fill those positions? Are we gonna end up paying for positions that overtime cost?
The PD one could substantially add to overtime. Back before we had the extra person in 2008, the overtime cost was about $145,000, $150,000 annually. Now it's down to $45,000. We've tried to add a little bit back into that line item, about $10,000 from what the original budget in October showed, but it would be tough. It's quite possible there'd be a lot more overtime.
David?
Public Works would have a little bit of overtime as well. Not enough to offset the full-time man, but I, from my projections, it's be somewhere between $8,000 to $10,000 extra in overtime. Only because we haven't taken away anything. We'll have to do the work that that person would have done if they'd have been there. So if you rely on the rest of your crew, you lengthen the time just a little bit.
You're talking even if we did the deal with,
No, I'm talking if there was no position.
okay.
No position.
And I mean, I read what the summary you put together, David, and I understand the deal with the trips and, you know, the timing to do a trip, and by adding it on to fewer people, what it would involve, and I understand not having enough sand and salt and everything on a, you know, that you can do a 3.5 hour trip and you've got enough to do the whole thing, but if we stretch it out to 5 hours, you gotta come back and refill.
I tried to explain it.
So, like I say, my compromise, and I mean, this whole thing has to be about compromises for everybody and how we can do this, because, you know, contrary to popular belief, nobody wants a tax increase. I mean, the department managers that are sitting here tonight, I don't think they want to pay any more out of their pockets either. Although, you know, the way some people talk, you think they must because of, you know, they just want to spend all this money, but it's affecting them as well as you and I and everybody else. And my compromise deal is, can we have this person until the end of April and then lay them off? And then we can hire them again next winter season.
Can I talk just
Yeah.
for a minute about that? I mean, I fully appreciate the council trying to do something. I really do. The problem that we have at Public Works is, even when we put applications out for a full-time job, we're lucky to get 8 applicants for a full-time job. What we've run into in the past, and I'll not say that we've done it often, is unemployment pays too well for those that are not working in the winter. The demand in the winter is instant. When it snows, you have to go. In the summertime, I could do without that man.
No, I'm, by the part-time person, I'm talking that he works full-time for the winter months.
Right, but that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, we could make that work, and I would be happy with that if we can find someone that will fill that position. I think that we as a city.
Well, I would get Manager Blease to call the unemployment insurance office, because I know between Lanes and Soderbergs and all the rest of them, there's hundreds of these guys that drive trucks for a living and could plow our roads that are laid off.
But
And my understanding of the system is that if there's an opportunity to work, you're supposed to take that.
I believe so.
And if you don't take it, you're not supposed to be able to collect unemployment anymore.
If there's light at the end of the tunnel. for
Especially since we're gonna lay them off the end of April, so they can go back to their regular summer job.
I don't believe that they have, if they have summer
From your
employment.
company, they have to go back to
They
it. So
have to
if
go
we
back.
lay somebody off and we offer them that job back, they have to go back to it. But if Soderberg lays them off and we offer them a job, they don't have to take it. They're only required to apply to X jobs per week. And Dave's right, I mean, the average truck driver, $13.80 an hour, $13.70 an hour.
Yeah.
So times 40 or 50 hours, you're gonna work, you know, your butt off for, you're gonna take home $550, or you could sit on your butt for, you know, $350. The unfortunate nature of the world today.
What I'm saying is I'm more than willing to try that as the compromise. You know, we do not have we do not have the time restraints or the necessity so quickly to act in the summer times.
Yeah,
It's the winter time that creates the problem.
yeah, no, I understand that.
And,
I understand that.
you know, I mean, and I think that could, and then one of the other good things is when, unlike the police department, when a man goes on vacation, I understand that they have to bring someone in and that's an overtime. We don't have that issue at Public Works. We just run that man down, or the two men down, or what it is. Makes no difference if we put that ditch in tomorrow, the day after, or next week. So the necessity to be right there is nowhere near as great. So yes, I believe that we could do with a winter employee if we can find someone to do that. My only concern is finding someone, that's all.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the biggest concern with me.
Well, you have that person right now, obviously. Oh, no, you don't, sorry. You're still looking for that person.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Counselor Martin?
Maybe Mr. Markey could help, because he finds people to groom trails. You have a hard time finding people? You do?
Again, like what he said about the unemployment.
Unemployment pays so well that it beats us out most of the time. I hate to say it that way, but, and I do not, so if an employee from Lanes or Soderberg's has seasonal summer help, they are not required to have to go and find that work. They can choose to do that, but I don't believe that the state forces them to do it.
Yep.
What about a private contractor to fill the slack? Is there anybody out there that you could hire that could plow?
Well, most of the contractors in the summertime are already plowing snow for
Right.
themselves in the winter.
Yeah.
So that's not gonna be
There,
enough.
there's maybe not an overage
No,
of,
if we put an application out for a full-time and we were getting 25 or 30 applicants at a time, I would say we probably have a better chance. But the last 2 times that I put applicants out, we got 7 people one time, 8 another, and the last time I ran it, the Risk Republican, I ran it on the
Squirrel.
watch here, the Channel 8, and I ran it in the Star Herald. That's kind
Yeah.
of sad. It's kind of sad. When I was in Prescal for 6 months and we ran that application, we had 32 applications for Prescal. So that's why I ran it in the Star Herald, thinking that maybe someone might come over. But we had, like I said, the last 2 times, it was 7 applications, and the last one was 8. So although I think that's a great idea and it could work to try to save money, and probably the benefit package would save a fair amount, I just don't know if we're gonna fill it. That'd be
Yeah.
my only concern.
How many applicants did you say you had for it? Tony?
We're averaging 7 or 8 the last couple, and that's really, out of them, we might interview 3, and we're sort of lucky if we get 1 or 2 that are.
And other than the plan that we were gonna fill it, we haven't advertised for it. Is that where we're at?
No, we have not advertised for this last and final position, no. We have not advertised for that.
How does council feel about this, about, this part-time that we use them for the snow season here and then lay them off?
I think it's great if you can find somebody.
I think it's a great solution. Yeah, there's a lot of people that work in the agricultural industry, for instance, that may be able to have a CDL, would have to have a CDL to drive truck for us. People coming directly out of NMCC with a CDL, people coming off from Job Corps with a CDL that have not been employed anywhere before, would have to be trained.
We're having to train no matter what anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
the last 3 people that we've hired in the last 6 months, I mean, you don't find, we did have one come to work for us that had experience from previous towns. He lasted 6 months and went back somewhere else. But the other 2, I mean, other than a CDL license, and one drove a dump truck, an actual true dump truck, and the other one drove a single axle, they had no plow truck experience. So we're in the training process right now with 3 different employees, so It's been, with 3 new employees plus being down one, and, I mean, we've noticed a big difference, but it takes a while. It takes a printer, the first year they get used to it, the second year they're not too bad, and the third year they're good plow truck drivers. It takes about 3 years to get to be a real good plow truck driver. And we have seasoned veterans that are still hitting mailboxes. Correct, Mr. McDougal?
Yep.
But it happens.
Did you get reimbursed for that yet?
Dave, do they all have to be plow truck drivers? What about like the sidewalk person?
So, last year, when we went down one person that the council chose not to fill, the decision was made that we would not plow sidewalks
Right.
during the storm, or we would not create overtime. So, during the storm, we're still, as we are right
Still
now,
short.
we're still short that one
Okay.
person. And I put 2, like, after the storm, we try to go out with both tracklesses. But that's always after the storm, so.
Yeah, okay.
So, in our department, we have 2 positions. We have truck driving positions and we have equipment positions. And,
So they're either one or the other.
yeah. Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
As far as CDL requirement, on the plow trucks and the dump trucks and stuff like that, that's just a brake endorsement, isn't it, with air brakes and stuff like that, or is there more to it than that?
Well, you have to have the brake endorsement as part of it.
Right.
But you have to have that Class B.
And that's what makes it a Class B, is when you get that type of endorsement, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So, but there's nothing more to it than that, is there?
It's a road test, just like you would
Right.
with a car or a pickup.
Right.
And then you have, there's air brakes, and I believe there's one other, I don't remember what the other test
You
is,
do,
but.
you do the inspection and stuff, but,
Right.
so.
Yeah. I mean, this.
Well, I think, just for clarification, that's why I asked that, because some people may consider a person with a CDL getting the full-blown, you know, Class A endorsement to tractor trailer, the whole works, that's all, so.
Right, and we don't
There's
need
no
the Class
formal
A.
education other than training and taking the test for the air brake.
Right.
And that just shows the differences between regular braking and air braking and,
So, just so the council understands, the last hire, pickings was pretty thin, and I considered possibly hiring someone without the CDL license, and we'll take the time, we'll teach them how to drive the truck, and we'll get them their license. And I went down to DMV, and from start to finish, they told me to count on 2 months for them to get a CDL license. That's providing they pass the first time around. So if we're already into December, and then probably 2-3 weeks before we'd actually get an employee here, we're almost the first year, we're almost out of February for what I have a regular Class C person trained and licensed in a Class B. So you almost have to look for the Class B right?
I think that's the right way too.
I mean, you know, over the years, we have hired individuals that had a Class C, but we had the summertime to get them trained, and we got the licenses in underneath their belt, and they are fantastic employees. But we're into the season where we just don't have that luxury for that time to do that. So, we really need to be looking for a Class B commercial driver's license.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, if everybody's in favor, I think that's what we should try to do in that area to cover that, is look for somebody, and we'll hire them part-time up until end of April or whatever, and then lay them off. And when you look at all the benefit costs and everything, there's certainly some money there, even though you gotta pay the unemployment, so.
Is that a motion?
Can we act in workshop?
We're in a meeting.
We're in an actual meeting. We're in a special meeting.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes.
And maybe Tony can answer it, but he mentioned about when we lay that person off, we have to pay an unemployment tax or whatever it was called. So we go through the summer and we pay that, and then in the late fall or the very start of winter, that person doesn't come back, but we find a second person. are we still continuing to pay on that first person all through the winter as well?
Not if we've offered them position back and he hasn't come back, no.
Okay, that would end it?
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
American?
Yes.
So this position is already in the budget.
Correct,
So doing this will reduce the budget.
correct.
I move we look for a part-time plow person for the winter.
A second.
Moved by Counselor Martin, seconded by Counselor Murchison. Fill the public works position with a part-time person for the rest of the winter. Any questions or comment?
I just have a question. If we can't find one, then he's still gonna be down that man. What-
Then he's gonna have, I mean, that's no different than if we approve a full-time person and they can't find one.
Well, yeah, but the chances of finding a full-time person will probably be greater than the chance of finding a part-time person, or do you think
Well,
not?
Maybe not. I mean,
Yeah, I think that's a perception. I
Yeah.
don't think
Yeah.
anybody's looked at it.
I mean,
Let's-
there's a lot of guys that work hot top that might want to work, but don't because there's no work.
Yeah.
So. who
I
knows?
actually am gonna contact 2 people myself here to see if I can
Okay.
convince them that they ought to do something this winter instead of laying around getting fat.
Don't call me.
We have a motion on the floor. Any other questions or comments?
Do we have an approximate
Savings.
savings?
Be about 19,000 with the insurance, and half of a salary would be roughly $16,000.
So that'd be about $24,000.
34, 35.
What'd I say, 24? Jeez. Push your
Got
button.
carried away.
I'm gonna
Give
push
me
it.
the answer, Mr. Math teacher.
You're figuring 34,000 savings?
So it'd be 19,000 plus 25,000.
It's 44.
Our cost or our savings?
Our savings. That does not add in anything for the unemployment compensation, so another 5 to 10 grand.
So how much is 44?
It's tough because we take an immediate whack and then our contribution goes up. I'd put in at least a couple $1,000s, at least something to match. I can get a calculation together, but it would all depend. I would put in a few $1,000s at least.
7?
That might be,
Keep in mind, he's gonna be coming back again.
you hope.
Well, if he doesn't, he's not gonna be affecting the unemployment anymore either.
You might find somebody that's going to go to work at another job right away, too.
Or you might find somebody that wants to work in the winter and fish all summer and would like to come back every year. That'd be what I'd prefer. If I was only gonna work part of the year, I think I'd rather work in the winter and have the summer off, but that's just me. No, I don't wanna drive a plow truck, David. Thank you.
I'll teach you, Gary.
Yeah, thanks. Might take you longer than 2 months to train me.
So would the estimated
Think I already
savings
got
be
the
about
lumbar support.
40,000
No.
versus the 44,000 to be safe?
Be about 34.
34?
34.
34.
19 plus 15.
Yeah.
Oh, you said 19 plus 25 a while ago.
19 plus 15.
34.
34.
34, and that's including,
So 30,000 if we put 4,000 into workers' comp.
okay, so 30,000, so that's $22,200.
So while we're at it, do we have any recent quotes on diesel and gas?
We have a
Oh,
motion.
yes. All in favor of the motion? Unanimous. Do we have any recent quotes, David, on oil and gas? Have you got any?
Yeah, the only thing that I really know is the last tanker that we bought on the diesel fuel. I looked at numbers today for my department, and for the year 2014, I believe that we were at $3.45 a gallon for an average over the year. The very last tanker that we just bought was down to $2.90 a gallon. And that $2.90 that we just paid was also factored into the year. So on an average for the year of 2014,
Yeah, so there's a bigger variance than what?
there's a big variance in the diesel, yes. I don't remember what the,
What about gas? Well, I mean, there's certainly a big, big variance in gas at the pump. I filled up $2.99 before I came here tonight.
you can look at the pumps, and you're driving around town, and on an average, say that our cost is pretty close to 50 cents a gallon cheaper than that. 55 cents, so our gas is probably in the 260 range, I'm guessing. I didn't look at the gas because my department is very low on gas usage compared to diesel. I mean, we average 42,000 gallons a year in diesel. So that's the big, you know. that's-
When I looked at the numbers in the budget, and maybe I looked at them wrong, but fire department, I had $42,200 in diesel. And police, public works, I had $155,000 worth of diesel, which is $197,000. Even if you took 10% of that, and it's dropped more than 10%, but even if you take 10% of that, you're talking roughly 20 grand right there. If we reduce the budget by 20 grand to bring it more in line with where the prices are. Gas, the police department is the biggest user, $41,000. Public Works had 13,000, and fire department had 4,000. Again, it's $58,000. So it is well, even if you take, 10%, 6 grand, you're talking $25,000 here just by taking 10%, and it's definitely gone down more than 10%. Is it going to go back up? None of us know, but when you listen to the investment people and the futures people, they're thinking we're here for a while. And geez, I'm praying they're right, just for my own personal thing, not anything else, but I'm praying they're right. I mean, I look at my fuel oil bill today compared to what it was last year, the price of it, it's just unreal. So,
If you're right about the prices, there's a substantial savings. I mean, if we said $3 a gallon.
and I don't think we want to take it all, I think we want to leave something there, but to me, I don't see a problem with 10%. Counting on a 10% price reduction, so.
What happens if OPEC changes their mind in a couple of months and decide that they're not happy with the $60 to $80 a barrel they're getting and decide to decrease their output because they're getting greedy again? And I'm sorry, the fuel goes up faster than, like David said, it goes down.
Yeah,
So we're looking to do this for a whole year, and 3 months, the first quarter of the new year, they decide that up there goes the price of oil and fuel and stuff like that.
Keep in mind, we're also looking at using the same amount of oil as last year when our pellet burners never worked at all, basically, and hopefully they're gonna work somewhat here this year.
Well, that's different. Aren't we talking diesel, not fuel oil?
Well.
Oh, sorry,
What are we
yeah,
talking?
we're talking everything here. He's talking about OPEC oil, so.
Okay, you're confusing.
He threw
And I'm not talking to him at all about the cost of asphalt or anything, because I figure if we got anything extra left in there, we'll just do a little more paving than what we planned, so. I'm not asking him to cut that out.
I do, every time.
Right, and I will say that the Wall Street Journal is reporting that oil prices today posted their biggest one-day gain in the last 2 years. There seems to be a lot of volatility in the market, especially on oil. There might be some savings, but I think it is hard to predict long-term for a 12-month budget.
All these products that we buy are a byproduct of what they pop out of the ground. That's all I'm saying. And you're right, there was quite a jump today. I noticed that. Also noticed how much it's dropped lately, too.
Right.
Can we try something for an example? 2014, I know that the average price for Public Works was $3.45 a gallon. And if we multiplied that times 42,000 gallons, can we look to see what that price is?
345 times 42,000?
Yeah, $3.45, $3 times,
144,900.
144,000, and I had budgeted 157.
155.
155, so $11,000, and that's, I know we're paying 50 cents a gallon less than that, and then for the short amount of time that it'll be there, I mean, 145 is what I averaged.
But what you're saying, David, is you built for a price increase in diesel.
Well, because we were paying, when we started building them budgets last fall, our target was $3.75. So, yes, I believe that there is room for some wiggle, if we can hold true at $3.45. that's what, so for the year, for the entire year of 2014, the highs, the lows, for the amount of gallons that we bought, we averaged citywide $3.45 per gallon in 2014.
So in 2015, we're budgeting to average $3.55.
So can we back it off, Austin? Can you take the 150?
155,000.
And divide it by the 42,000 gallons and see what the target price is guessed at?
$3.69?
359,
369.
369. And what did you say you just bought it at?
290.
290.
Well, you want to leave her at 369 because you're worried about OPEC. Look, I just know that's not the way of business budgets, but if that's the way of municipal government budgets, then
No,
so be it.
I believe it can go down, but keep in mind that when these budgets were built.
It doesn't sound like other councilors do, though, so
I don't.
you don't have a vote here, just so you know.
I don't believe we're gonna pay 369 for the 2015. I do not believe that it'll average that much.
I think you're right, David.
I hope he's right.
It's a chance we take. That's like rolling the dice.
Yeah, you're gonna take that chance, and if you're wrong, you're gonna pay a little bit more. If you're right, fantastic.
Well, if we took 25 cents off, we'd be at about $10,000.
I mean, I say that, but I guess I don't necessarily, if we're talking usage, okay, savings in usage, but I guess I wouldn't base it on price. I just, again, I think the
Most of the time.
market's too volatile.
Most of the time, what we do is we take our usage and we average it over 5-6 years, so that it's not skewed by any one year.
Right.
I mean, obviously, Public Works, the year that we had 200 inches of snow.
Well, I'm not arguing at all with the usage. I'm just discussing what the price is.
Right.
How much capacity do you have? For how long? Do you have a month, 2 months?
Of fuel,
Yeah.
10,000 gallons. We can go through 10,000 gallons in 2 weeks with my department alone.
So you're getting a truck twice a month?
Yeah.
Has the city ever bought futures in diesel or anything? Can they do that?
It's always been rack plus.
Yeah.
Have we ever talked to anybody about doing that? Because again, that's what a business would do, so,
I don't know.
I don't know.
If the city's ever tried to lock in a price.
We go out to bid every time on the fuel, and typically, and we run into a little bit of problems in this time of year with the diesel, because they will only fill the tanks at 90% because of the vapor recovery
Yeah.
systems.
Yep.
You have a 10,000 gallon tank, so you can put 9,000 gallons in it. You cannot use the bottom 700 gallons in the tank because the draw pipe doesn't go. So unless you are right on the bottom of the tank, then you can fit the 8,000 gallon tanker, and that's probably when you get your best price.
What I'm referring to, though, David, is there's some large trucking companies and things like that who buy the diesel for the year at a set price. And it may, if diesel was at $2.90 today, maybe that set price is $3.15. But then they're locked in at $3.15 for the year.
That would be
They
awesome.
commit to so many gallons. We know how many gallons we're going to use. I don't know if we can do that or not.
So
But it's certainly worth looking into here, because we can start exploring all of this stuff here.
Well, I know that back years ago, we used to do rack plus so many cents for our heating fuel that was done through the Bangor port, but I don't know that it's ever been done on the diesel fuel. And
But
obviously-
again, I'm not talking rack plus, because the rack
Oh,
price
and I
changes
understand.
continuously.
Right.
I'm talking similar to the way these companies in town sell fuel oil. In other words, they will give you a locked-in price for the year. You can prepay it, whatever, but they will give you a locked-in price for the year. And then they'll try to get you to pay insurance so that if it goes down below that, you won't get hurt, you can still pay lower and so on. But you can lock it in at a set price. I know you can do that with diesel, because I know trucking companies that have done that. And yeah, they may pay a little bit more than what it's at today, depending on what the market's at today and what the futures look like and so on, but they can lock in a price.
I'd be more than happy to look.
And then they know. And if we can lock in a price at, if our average last year was $3.59 or whatever, and we can lock it in at $3.25, I think that's what we ought to be doing. Then if the price is only $2.90, well, all right, but it might be back at $3.59 if there's a big concern about what's going to happen with OPEC and so on. All the reviews I'm reading don't say that. Their deal is that most of these nations now, Iran, Saudi Arabia, 75% of the money spent in Saudi Arabia by the government comes from oil revenues. They can't cut back on oil. Iran is the same way. I think we're here for the long term. And I may be wrong, but I think we're here for, when I would say the long term, I mean the next year or two. Who knows?
I hope you're right.
That's the way I'm investing my money is based on that information, so I hope it's right. So do we want to take anything out of the budget or not? What does council want to do? Anyone?
No, I don't see the need.
Leave it alone.
Okay. Forget it.
But it would, on the same token, it wouldn't hurt to look into the,
We can certainly look into that, and if we can lock in a price.
That's worth looking into for sure.
Well, can we have some numbers to look at by the 8th?
I doubt it.
You don't think so?
I don't think that's realistic timing.
Because, I mean, even if it was a 10%, as the mayor suggested, that's a sizable savings on this budget, and where every penny is going to count. And appreciating the mayor's message that we can find some money in maybe fuel oil, find some money in diesel and gas. Maybe there's some interest revenue in the monies that'll come from the retirement. We were just talking about 0.29 mils to hold all the positions and run the city with the same amount of services. Now, with the monies we found, it seems to me it's less than a quarter of a mil, maybe better than that with some other suggestions.
The council can always reduce the budget after it's adopted in December, but we can't add back to it. So it's always possible that the next council could reduce the budget if we can get lock in a better price for gas and diesel.
I'll make a motion that we reduce $10,000 total from diesel, gas, fuel oil.
And fuel?
Yeah, everything. I mean, and that's conservative. I mean, if you get through 2 or 3 more tankers at $2.90, you should be covered.
I think we can do 10,000 right out of my department, to be honest with you.
yeah, but if, on the flip side of that, and I'm just gonna throw this out there, if you get another 100 inches of snow,
No, that's right.
see you later.
Yeah.
How many inches of snow did we have last year? Last year above average?
158.
150.
Yeah, it's.
Last year above average?
155 above average, yeah.
So if you get more than the above average from last year, you'd be right, Shane.
It's a
Well, it's-
5-year.
yeah, I think you're looking at the same crystal ball you're looking at with OPEC. It's,
It's not necessarily how much snow, it's how often and how many
Yeah,
times they have to go out.
That's right.
but that translates into.
So if we got just so everyone understands, it takes as much time to plow 1 inch of snow as it does 6 inches of snow. There might be a little bit more fuel involved because it pushes a little bit harder, but not a whole. If you had 6 individual storms, you'd use 5 times as much fuel as the 1 6-inch storm.
Yeah.
So the motion is 10,000 total out of energy.
And that includes gas, diesel, and heating fuel?
Should be able to find that.
I'll second.
Moved by Counselor Martin, seconded by Counselor Murchison to remove $10,000 in total from
Energy. use.
any or all of the energy lines, however administration so chooses to do so.
Except for pellets.
Yeah. Any questions or comments?
Petroleum based, okay.
All those in favor? Opposed? Oh, sorry. Unanimous. The other, well, I might as well carry on with some of these things I've had down here. The other thing was the $20,000 extra that was slated to go into the salaries in the administration and
Classification upgrades.
wage
you
and
mean?
classification upgrade.
Make sure we're talking about the same thing.
And I don't feel that this is the time for that. And I move that we take that out. If I can move, I better not move it. I'll let somebody else see if they want to make the motion.
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
Is that Counselor McDonough? Seconded by Counselor Terrio to remove the $20,000 from the wage that was put in through the wage and classification schedule adjustments. Counselor,
Yeah, the only comment I have on that is, you know, back when we started that whole wage and classification, we'd asked the council to look at that. They did due diligence, they looked at it, they spent a lot of time on it. I don't think there's actually a good time to do that. There never is gonna be a good time to do it. I think it should be done. You know, it was proven that we needed to do this. You know, I think it's a small amount of money. It's an incremental step, and that's what we discussed. So I don't, you know, there's never really going to be a good time to do that. That's a popular way, popular time to do it. So just wanted to make that public.
any other?
I agree with Counselor McDougall. In the lion's share of this $20,000 were really to take care of only a few inequities. And
My understanding it's 12 inequities. Is that correct,
Well,
Manager,
people are
please?
being brought into better line with their peer group as per the wage and wage and
not a few.
classification.
You know, to me, it's, you know, we put in a 2% increase throughout. And I know 2% isn't a lot. But 2%'s a lot to a lot of these people out here that live in Caribou that didn't get any and haven't got any for a while. I understand there's maybe some inequities. And I'm going to tell you, there's always going to be inequities. And there's going to be inequities both ways, which I think we found as well, that we have some people that are paid more than what they should be. Not a lot, but I think there's a few. Is that
Three?
correct?
3?
We never lower their salaries, and I don't expect you to lower their salaries. But I'm saying it works on both sides all the time. And will there ever be a good time? I don't know. I don't know that. I don't think this year is the right time. And my position is I think it should be removed. Everyone has to decide how they want to handle it. If they hadn't got any increase at all, if no one had got any increase at all and we felt something had to be done, but I'm going to tell you, I'm trying to work to keep the positions we have and to not increase this tax rate. And if I've got to make a choice between, do I want to give an extra $20,000 to some of the administration people in this city office and other areas, or if I'm going to get to keep a policeman on the force, I'm going to vote for the policeman every time. Everybody else can do what they want, but that's my position. So, anybody else?
I've got one comment too. This is 20,000 this year, but isn't it my understanding that there's another 20,000 next year? That this total thing, this total wage and classification was a total of 40,000 when we first talked about it.
No, the council allotted 20,000, and it was
Right.
going to be discussed again next year.
Okay, so it's going to be discussed again next year?
Right, it was only a one-year thing, and the council, it's up to the council. We put it in $20,000 at the council direction,
Right.
and we kept the budget flat at the council direction.
But wasn't, like you said, discuss it again next year, because this was only supposed to, I thought in the beginning, take care of maybe 5 people, and then we do the others next year for another 20,000, but my understanding was this was 40,000 total.
Right, the council has not followed the policy for the last 6
Right,
years, and it's gotten way out of whack, and we're trying to slowly bring that back into
Yeah.
line.
And again, just to repeat, we're not talking $20,000. You know, there's 44% benefits on average for city employees. So if you're going to put out another $20,000, that means you're going to be paying that much more Social Security, you're going to be paying that much more pension, you're going to be paying,
And
knows
all
what-
that was factored into the budget, which was brought in flat per the council requirement.
I understand that, but I'm saying, we're saying it's 20,000. It's not 20,000, it's more than 20,000. Is it 25? I don't know, but it's more,
Kept it within the
20,000.
20,000 with all of that, because the council gave 20,000.
including Social Security and everything else.
Yes.
Okay, I thought you were giving out $20,000 in increases based on,
20,000 includes the retirement, Social Security, and everything. It was all kept within $20,000.
my position hasn't changed.
And
Just-
so, oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, I was just thinking, some of these, last time we talked anyway, when we first talked, some of them were substantial, right?
Yep.
$5,000, $4,000, and that,
9, some of them were quite substantial.
yeah. I can't justify it with the economy and,
The other thing I'd like to mention on that is, you know, my first point was, it was directed for staff and management to do that. If that's not the case, then, you know, I think we should stop wasting all of our time. On the other token, on the other side of that, what I feel is that, when I get public service from the police, from Public Works, from the fire department, from Penny, I want to make sure I'm getting good service, and to me, I'm going to get good service if I pay my employees well. We want good employees that work for the city, so that when I go in, I get good service. And I think that goes hand in hand.
Counselor McGill, just so you understand,
I think I understand just fine.
no, but when this was brought up about this $20,000, and a number of council people agreed that it should be done, what was agreed to that it would be put into the budget and we would look at it? Not that, yes, you got the 20,000, because if that's what we agreed to, the race could already be there. And to say that, you know, we've already looked at this and talked about it and talking about it again, that's the reason we're here. We all don't make the right decisions the first time, and sometimes you have to relook at the decisions you made and determine, was I right or not? And you got to be able to change your mind when it's needed. So, yeah, you know, there's a lot of things that are going to be repetitive. That's the nature of municipal government. And I'm sorry, but that's the way it's probably going to continue. There's probably going to be things that are brought up and decided on, and then someone brings additional information, and some of the councilors are going to say, well, gee, maybe that isn't right. And it's obvious because there seems to be some that have already changed their minds on it, and we have to determine, do you want to go ahead, and do you want to pay an extra $20,000 to a certain amount of the employees here, or don't you? Do we have any other thoughts? Do we have any motions?
You have a motion?
You already got a motion in a second.
All right, all those in favor of removing the $20,000?
no, it isn't to remove it, is it?
Yes.
Oh, to remove it, okay, to remove it. Oh, okay, okay.
That's what you wanted to second.
Well, I thought it was you and Shane that had, no, okay, yes, yes.
It
Phil
was a
made
long
yeah,
time ago when
okay.
we made the
Long
motion.
time ago, yes.
I
Phil
forgot as
made
well,
the-
so,
Phil made the motion to remove it, I seconded it, yes, okay.
correct.
Yeah.
All those in favor? Opposed? 4-2, motion stands.
Mayor Aiken,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to add 7,000, whatever AAAA wanted for their proposal, 7,700,
7253.
$7,253 to give to Lustig Area Agency on Aging.
Seconded.
Moved by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Murchison, to include the $7,700, is it?
$7,253.
$7,250 for the Rustic Agency on Aging. Any questions or comments? Councilor Martin?
Yeah, I know we kind of have a policy about donations and stuff. I look at it as economic development. I mean, it brings money to the community. There are people in this community that work for that agency. So I think we should support it.
I thought they said they didn't, I mean, I'm sure, I thought they said they didn't have anybody working here.
It was like 21, actually.
Yeah, they have quite a few.
Employees for, of,
It might be
they
a home.
don't
it
have
might-
that many
No,
employees.
no, but it might be a home caregiver, remember?
A lot of people seek services through the area agency on aging here in the city.
Okay, but yeah, they don't work for them. They work for their own organization, like the visiting nurses or something like that. Is that what you're referring to?
No, no, we
No,
have
I
care, you can get paid to be a caregiver, let's say, for a
Okay.
relative.
All right,
And
yep.
they get paid for doing that through that agency.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what the exact number was, but
All
there
right.
was,
15 or something like
there was
that.
quite a few.
Any other comments, any questions? Councilor McGough?
Yeah, I guess I'd like to, throw out an idea that we, similar to some of the other things we've done, is actually phase the donations out. I know it was policy that we did away with it last year. We didn't do anything. I can't remember what we did the year before. We were looking at not doing it this year. I think there was some valid points to not funding. I think there's some valid points to fund them. I do think they provide a lot of services to the community. Some of them do. I don't know as if I agree with all of them. Do they hit all the different, people in the community? I don't know the answer to that question, but I don't think it is. So I guess I would say, phase them out over a period of 3 years, 2 years, 5 years, whatever it is. And I guess I'd be interested in seeing what other councilors felt about that.
Any other comments?
Yeah, right here.
Councilor?
I personally don't want to support that. Based on, if that's the case, then all the other ones that we used to support all have valid and legitimate reasons for their causes. Secondly, I looked at, I'm going to get this all confused, Eastern Agency on Aging, which covers Penobscot, Piscataquis, Washington, and I think Hancock County, and they cut back to a 4-day work week. And they didn't make any, give us any inclination that they had done any cutback over there or anything like that. And here we are, we're trying to save money in the budget. We can't even hire a public works person or a librarian or a police officer, but yet we can fund the charities, and enough said.
Councilor Martin?
This is a matching, they need to raise a certain amount of matching funds. The Red Cross doesn't need to raise matching funds. They need to raise these funds in order to generate more funds or to get the funds that they have. So that's how they're
I
different.
understand the process.
That's how they're different than others.
Well, I
let's say.
understand the process. Red Cross puts in for grants also.
Councilor Murchison?
I wouldn't suggest that we necessarily phase things out over time. When you look at the area agency on aging itself is actually a growth industry. Our population is aging, and our population is rural and not affluent. So where will these people go for services? They'll go to the area agency on aging, or they will go to the emergencies room. And anyone that pays for insurance knows that we're paying for those people to go to the emergency room. So, again, I think that should be reinstalled in our budget and debated annually.
Anyone else?
I think it's a good service, but we did establish a policy with the Red Cross, with other charities, nonprofits, not to support them. Yes, they have to have matching funds, but I would think that they could do some kind of a fundraiser like United Way does or something like that to get the funds that they need. But we either are going to support the charities or in the nonprofits or we aren't. So either we do or we don't. But, I mean, it's hard to pick and choose. What are you gonna, then the Red Cross is gonna come along, some of the other ones are gonna come along, and I think, and they get paid for the services that they do. And I think that they still will continue the services.
Anything else? We have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor of putting the approximately $7,250 back into the budget to cover the Aroostook Agency on Aging? All those in favor? 2. All those opposed? 4. Motion's defeated. The only other thing we didn't cover from that list that I had, I guess, was the ambulance billing and the full-time secretary, which I see is $20,000 more than what we had planned on last year. And I don't think that was in the budget last year, so I don't know where that money's coming from, but I don't think that was in the 2014 budget to have the full-time secretary and a part-time ambulance biller.
Yeah, we increased the secretary's position, I do know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. We made her full-time.
And the ambulance billing salaries were just under $82,000 and will be within that, so it does appear that they were all in there.
Anyway, again, I'd rather support having the full-time police officer. We do have the secretary who can be the backup for the ambulance billing, so that we are covered in case someone leaves. Counselor Mark?
What's this new replacing the officer, what's that total cost?
Public police officers, 55,600 approximately.
Total, everything,
Right.
including the 3.5% match on pension and everything?
Retirements, Social Security, health insurance.
Well, we've cut 60,000 from the budget.
We're at 64,000, David? Are we?
Well, the 34,000 was reduced to, I figured 30,000, because they were gonna pay some unemployment insurance.
No, that was after the unemployment insurance, wasn't it?
No, it's 30,000 there. Counselor Martin's right, we're at 60,000.
Okay. Counselor Murchison?
As we're going down the list, which it looks like we are, I see that the library position was stated at $57,000. That seems high in comparison with those other of the three positions. Is that, maybe Lisa could, does that look high to you? I mean, I don't know what kind of position it is, so.
I would have to defer that.
It falls in line with the pay scale that the city uses for the library assistant position. The police officer position at step 1 is underpaid. That increase for for year after the first year would be substantially higher once they're fully academy trained and everything.
So the library position is for a certified librarian?
And that's the first step in the pay scale.
That's the first step in
Right.
place.
But
would
that
cer-
includes benefits too, right?
Benefits and
That's
everything.
not just
Just
salary.
like all of the positions.
Right, right,
Yeah.
no, I understand that. It just looked like the other ones were a little lower.
Library position will only go up a little bit over the next 5 to 10 years from where it is, whereas that patrol officer position will have a bigger increase in the first 5 years. So right now, it's the libraries here and the patrol officers here. In 5 years, it'll look a little bit more like that.
It'll be substantially higher for the patrol officer than the librarian.
About $3 an hour, so.
Lisa, I know you've been looking for some volunteers and that. How are the efforts going?
They're going pretty well. We've spoken with the high schools. We've got some high school students that have actually started with us. Our site has been certified with National Able Network, so that will allow us to get some federally funded seniors to come in and work some hours. Usually they're funded for 16 to 20 hours per week. It fluctuates based on that program. But that comes down through workforce investment funding. So we're looking at some options there as well, community service. It's a slow process. to
I
get
understand that.
started, But it is coming.
So do you see, with what you know now and with what you've been able to do you see running the library less hours than what we have been?
Well, what we have right now is not what we're gonna have next year, even if that position's not filled, because we're still running on a position that was funded from this year. So, you know, if I can get more bodies in the building, then no, I shouldn't really have to cut. If everything remained exactly equal, starting next budget year, I would lose the funding for the positions that I have now. It's gonna be very, very tight to keep the hours. I certainly will do everything I can to keep the hours. If anything, we'd like to expand the hours in the evenings because we've had so much demand for that. But I don't know if that really answers the question very well. We're certainly doing everything we can.
What about how does council feel about this? We talked about, the city administration brought forward about having an events coordinator and someone that can do some economic development here. And we talked about housing them in the library. That's where they would work out of. And would be able to, hopefully down the road, provide some backup to the library position. Between that and having volunteers and seniors or whatever, Jesus, my wife can get paid, I get her signed up real quick here. And how does the rest of council feel? Is it something we should be looking at? Again, I'm just trying to look at different ways of doing this that,
How much,
Council Martin.
how much is this events coordinator funded for?
I believe,
it's in the TIF district, David.
right, 34,000, with everything, 57. I will point out, as Councillor Martin noted, we've got 60,000 from the budget, that leaves roughly $4,000. If we were to add that back into the library as part-time staff, that'd be about 6 hours a week. 6 extra hours a week, part-time staff is just over $4,000, $4,100. So we'd still be within the savings that the council's already cut from the budget so far.
Wouldn't an events coordinator be better based at the wellness center?
We could have them split time between places if we needed. The original plan would be to have them at the rec center, because that's where most of the events start at. But they could be based out of the library a day or two a week if they needed to be.
My thoughts on this initially too were, I can't see funding the chamber and the events coordinator, because you're talking about overlapping a lot of things here now. The chamber can still run whatever events they want to run, obviously, they're their events. This person here would run the events that the city wants to run, which in some ways was a good part of Kathy's job. Kathy was kind of our sub-events coordinator here in Caribou, so, and can do some work in the economic development area. So I don't want to throw the chamber out totally. I think we should still supply the chamber with a place to be, which right today is an islander. Whether long-term it's an islander, if something does happen there after we meet with the board and so on, I still think we should provide them with a facility to use. But as far as funding of the chamber, I can't justify funding the chamber and funding an events coordinator, so.
But I would be hoping that this events coordinator is coming up with new events
Right.
that are not business, it's not the crafts fair or whatever.
Yeah.
Just new events that bring people into town.
And I think the chamber will continue to do the events they're doing.
Right,
And they make money on the craft fair, for instance,
right.
so.
But I'm looking at the chamber as business-type events, and the events coordinator would take care of Thursdays on Sweden and come up with whatever else is out there. I look at Fort Kent, that little town, and they're doing something every 2 weeks.
I know.
So it starts small. Who would think that a Ploy festival would, but it's working. So
Yeah,
I'd support it. I think it's, hey, like I said, if you're within the budget and the mill rate, and we are right now,
Not yet.
not yet?
No, I'm sorry, he was asking me something
oh.
else.
Then I'm good.
Mayor Aiken,
yes.
I agree. I think the events coordinator, events person is a good idea. I think they can come up with some good events. I agree with housing for the chamber, but I think the members of the Chamber of Commerce should be the ones to support the chamber. If they don't, whatever they bring in, whatever the memberships bring in for the chamber could be what they operate on along with their events. The arts and crafts would continue to be theirs, and they make money off that, whatever else they come up with. But I think it should be the membership that supports the chamber, and I don't see a lot of enthusiasm, because I know they sent out an email to all their members to come and support them during the public hearing for the budget. And I think there was one or two of the board members, and that kind of shows me some indifference there, but
Actually, they had one evening, there was a half dozen people in the audience. Matter of fact, they were pretty much the whole audience besides staff.
yeah.
I mean, there hasn't been much from the business because the city used to do it all. But it does take time to wean them off. And I think we're doing a pretty good job of weaning them off. Are you proposing, right now it's at 15,000. Are you
Right.
proposing zero or?
I'm proposing, especially to hire an events coordinator, I'm proposing that we allow the Nylander, but not for the funding on the chamber.
Austin, what do we pay for there? And I only ask that because I think the number we're using now is 11,000 something. And in the back of my mind, I've got that it was 18,000 or something last year. So
It's all in the
did
budget.
we change something?
We pay for the heat, electricity, telephone, internet, water, sewer, building maintenance as it's required. Those are the basic things, the property insurance.
Property insurance, yeah, okay. I
don't-
mean, we cover a lot of the costs that they would have as a group. And
The events coordinator is in the budget right now.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd support maybe cutting them back another 5,000 to 10,000. Give the 5,000 plus the 4,000 to the library for part-time help. It doesn't fill the position, but it
can't
does.
do that,
No,
And do what?
the chamber's funded from the TIF
From the
district,
TIF district.
so we couldn't shift that money into the general fund.
Okay, then leave it as is.
I would make a motion, though, to fund the police officer position at approximately $55,600.
Second.
Boy, we changed the discussion in a hurry there, didn't we?
I'm trying to figure out how we got to where we were when we started off with that to begin with.
You supported the police, you said that last week.
Yeah,
Did we have a second for that motion?
Yeah, second.
I was sleeping, I didn't have to do anything.
And was it you, Councilor McDonough, that seconded that?
No, I did.
She,
I did.
Councilor
she
Terry.
did down there,
Okay,
Mr. Martin
Councilor
made
Terry.
the motion.
No,
No,
Mr.
Ken
So
made
now
the
we'll start another chain of discussion. We have a motion to remove police officer in the budget.
We'll check the tape to see when you nodded off.
Is there any other discussion or questions on that?
Yeah, we're gonna-
To add the.
Adding, yeah.
Is there any other questions or comments on that?
And-
All those in favor of the motion? Whatever it is, it's passed, Jane.
Mayor Aiken, I propose that we give the remainder of these $60,000 we saved and give it to the library for part-time help. About $4,000 or so.
4,041 is what the cost would be for an extra 6 hours.
Seconded.
Moved by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Murchison to put the remaining, we call it surplus, Manager of police, what do we call that?
I wouldn't call it a surplus. Council can call it whatever council wants.
Redirection of the,
$1,041.
To the library for part-time help. Any discussions or questions on that?
Now, what did all that do to the bottom line?
Can we vote on this, finish this off first?
well, he,
You asked
you know,
him if
he
there was
need,
any.
it's good to
any-
know what it does to the bottom line before he decides how he votes.
Well, I thought we said we were even here.
I thought so too.
$1,066 is what we're still under revenues by $1,066. So expenses are under revenues.
So we're flat then.
We're flat.
We're good.
We're good.
All those in favor? Unanimous. Any other items that anyone wants to bring up here?
On the list, there was the contribution for the Veterans Cemetery.
What was the request?
$500.
So move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion or comments? Counselor Martin?
May I ask who seconded that? Oh, okay. I thought Councilor Terrio was reneging on her.
Why? I didn't say anything.
I know, sorry.
No, but the veterans, why? Why would I have reneged on the veterans?
No, I thought you had made the second.
Oh, okay.
Any other
Change your
comments or
mind, no,
discussion on the
Oh,
Veterans
oh,
Cemetery? What was the amount? $500?
And again, as Counselor Martin said earlier, this is kind of a tourism thing. We bring a lot of people to town to come see our Veterans Center, to see loved ones, to see events held there, even to pay for gasoline, to mow the lawn. You know, they're doing business in town, they're good neighbors. I think a $500 contribution is a modest act.
Any other comments?
No,
No?
no.
Anyone else? All right, all those in favor? What did we have in favor? You? Opposed? I guess. We have a tie vote? $500, we have a tie vote. We can look over these big numbers and $500, we got a tie vote. And I guess
You're the decider.
I will decide, and since I think we only have one veteran on this council, and since I don't understand that very well, whether we should be or shouldn't be, I'm going to go along with the veteran and vote no. In fact, I think he proposed to take this out in the first place, so
Yes, I did.
that's why that it wasn't part of our mandate, so,
Correct,
and they are self-supporting.
correct.
So, the motion is defeated. Anything else?
So we have a budget right now that does not increase the mill rate.
Just like the budget that we started with tonight and we had for the last several weeks in November, correct?
It was a yes or no question.
You were correct.
But your opinion is respected, thank you.
It doesn't mean we have to stop, fellas. I mean, just a comment, we can, but I'm just saying, you don't have to. The only other thing that I had left was the deal in the fire department, and if no one else seems to think that's important and that we need full-time secretaries for fire chief and we need a extra part-time billing clerk, fine, we'll just leave it the way it is.
I wouldn't mind getting more information on it, and like the manager says, we could always reduce the budget later if we had to. But I don't remember the exact details on how that happened.
All right. Any other comments?
I move to accept the 2015 budget as amended this evening.
Or can we do that? You just made a motion the other week to not approve the budget till December the 8th.
Yeah, and we voted not to have another meeting. And you broke the tie and you weren't
Yeah,
even
well, I
here.
got rid of the,
So now we.
I
can
didn't want to go
motion-
through this all on December the 8th. I thought it'd be much easier tonight, and obviously it was.
Can we do this tonight?
I'll second that motion.
Yes, we can do it tonight. The motion is seconded by Councilor McDougal to approve the budget as presented tonight,
As amended.
as amended tonight.
Are we leaving the chamber alone then? We really jumped ship on
It
that.
sounds like it. No one seemed to, I mean, I tried to have the discussion, but I got cut off, so.
Trying to help you.
Anyone
Do we
want to
wanna
have that
vote on
discussion
that
before
before-
we?
That's the only one we didn't vote on.
But we got a motion on the table in a second. We should,
Yeah, we can always do that later as well, correct?
Yeah, because it
Correct.
doesn't,
All right. We have a motion to pass the budget as amended.
is there discussion?
Yeah?
We did vote last week to approve the budget on Monday, December 8th. Just let me finish before, I know what you're gonna say. And probably well-received in the public, and they probably don't know, probably as far out there as we would like to, that we're meeting tonight to do this. I don't think I'm not changing my mind between now and next Monday.
Boy, I've heard that before from people.
But oddly enough, everyone was told on the news this evening that we've already decided,
Yeah.
so
Gee, did it say no increase?
If,
they did.
Oh, we're good.
if somebody comes up to the meeting on the 8th and has this great idea on to save money, we'll listen to them, and we can always reduce the budget.
oh, yeah, absolutely.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of, will I finish here now? Approving the budget as amended. All those, unanimous, sir. We got a unanimous in.
Hit the
Had
target,
to
that's
look
all I
twice.
care about, no tax increase.
All right.
That's the first one in 3 years.
I want to thank everybody for their efforts here tonight. I think it's great that we've come to this, and everybody seems to be at least happy with it right now. To some degree, we've kept most of the people, some of them only part-time, some of them full-time, and some of them kind of fill it in and so on, but I think we're on the right track, and thanks to the administration for all the background work that was done here initially that gave us a good starting point in this budget and carried it through to the no tax increase. Now, we all got to put a lot of pressure on our local school board and our local county, and hopefully they'll take a look at what we've done, and maybe they'll do the same thing, and Caribou might get by this year with no increase, so.
County's already voted to flat fund, but that doesn't necessarily mean that our contribution will be less.
No.
Is that like
All
won't
right.
have- won't decrease
Anything
that?
else? We have, we still have a meeting scheduled for December the 8th. Will we have an agenda?
On Friday, like always.
Okay. I just wondered if there was anything coming up, that's all.
We have junkyard hearing permits.
Okay, anything else? Any other business? Can we do any other business here? No, the special meeting for budget.
I mean, the,
All right, we need a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Counselor Martin, Counselor McDonough, move to adjourn. All those in favor? Thank you. Adjourned.
chamber.